Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name is Suj.
And my name is James.
It's People's Poll Day on a Tuesday, James, where we give our audience and listeners the opportunity to decide what topic we will ramble on about for a half an hour or so. The poll goes out on a Sunday, and the people have voted. Do you want to give them the runners and riders and the winner?
Except when the poll vote goes out on a Monday. We had three topics.
Did you put it out yesterday, did you?
Yeah.
I lost track of all days, mate, to be honest with you.
You're good. Well, we got in the habit of doing this podcast on a Monday, but we obviously decided to do the main podcast yesterday, reviewing game week 11. It's 11. It is 11 that's gone, isn't it? So three options for the podcast. One was an extension of that to review last night's game between Brighton and Hove Albion and Southampton, which I think we're probably glad that didn't win the poll vote, considering the way the game went, because we probably would have been having another fucking 15-minute conversation about VAR getting involved in changing a correct referee decision, by the way. How good are they? Good game that last night. Enjoyed it, though. Could have gone either way. A draw probably would have been fair. Another option we had was booing of taking the knee. Probably been quite well documented, especially what happened at Millwall at the weekend. Also, Colchester, and there was rumours of boos at West Ham, I believe, Suj as well. But you said you didn't hear anything, and you were there, so I take your word for it. I think there were a couple of other games where there was one or two people, individuals, who were booing as well. The reaction in Premier League games since that event has been kind of a spontaneous clapping, actually. To sum up, these people who are booing, they're booing because they believe it's a political stance, seems to be the feeling. It must be said that people taking a knee was long before there was a political group called Black Lives Matter. Footballers are taking the knee to stand against all forms of racism and prejudice, and people want to boo that. Like the message can't be any simpler, basically. So
there was Millwall and QPR. Is it Millwall game this weekend? They're not going to be
tonight, I believe.
Oh yeah,
no. Well, I think the QPR players have said they are, because obviously Les Ferdinand, who's at QPR, had said for ages that the players stopped taking the knee. There's no message behind it. But I think Mark Warburton, who's the QPR manager, said, "Look, we'll do it for this game because the message needs to be put out." That game's live on Sky as well, so it's going to get attention. If you're a Millwall fan and for whatever reason you're listening and you're going, fuck, behave, please. Seriously. But the winner of the vote is Arsenal in crisis. It's quite a broad question, can lead into many different directions. When you hear that,
I thought it was literally yes.
Right, okay.
End of podcast. Thank you for listening. Chat for now.
My question was going to be, Suj, if someone said that to you, are Arsenal in crisis, what would your reaction be?
No.
Why?
Well, so saying they're in crisis. Okay, there's no doubt they're not in a good state right now. There's no doubt about it, right? So you look at, is it that they don't have good enough players? Or is it that the manager isn't good enough? Is it just that they've hit a bad run of form or what have you? If you break down their team, they have Premier League players within their squad. They may not be...
Wow. I mean, that's damning.
No, but they may not be top six, but on paper, they are in the same... they're capable of Everton, Southampton, Wolves, West Ham. We're in that bracket underneath the top six, and Leicester probably have now proven themselves to actually be almost making it a top seven. Or Leicester have replaced Arsenal in the top six, let's say. But they have players that are as capable as these sides across the board, and then they have a couple of world-class players in there as well. So I don't think that the necessarily personnel is the issue. Arteta has received a lot of plaudits since he's become manager. He speaks well. He's got the right mindset and mentality, but he can't get a song out of the players. If you look at the last 7 games, league games specifically, let's take the Ropey League out of it because it's a bit of an oddball competition.
Ignore Europa League results, agreed.
Yeah. It's 2 goals in the last 7. Says it all.
One of them's a penalty.
Leno is a good goalkeeper. There's no doubt about it. He's been consistent for a good period of time. That I don't have a concern with Leno. And Tierney at left back has been okay as well. I don't know, but the rest of the defenders are a little bit hit. Miss Gabriel's been decent since he's come in. In holding midfield, Xhaka, Ceballos, whoever seems to be getting minutes is a little bit hit and miss. But Saka's decent. Willian was doing bits at Chelsea before he moved across.
Yeah, doing bits at Chelsea before we moved across.
He hasn't done much. I mean, he had a good start to the season, but hasn't done much. Aubameyang is a stone-cold killer when he wants to be. Lacazette is a decent striker. They've got players within that squad. So are they in crisis? I don't think so. I don't think it's like, are they at risk of getting relegated or whatever? They're just something's wrong, but I don't think it's as far enough to say that they're in crisis right now. Crisis for me is when it's a self-fulfilling, the momentum of getting worse and worse and worse, deepens and deepens and deepens. But I think the problem that the defence have right now is that they know, if you know your strikers are not scoring goals, then even conceding one goal means suddenly you're going to lose the game. That's the problem in the mindset of, if you don't keep a clean sheet, you are getting nothing today. I mean, that's a real headfuck to be in.
For Arsenal fans, I think being in 15th position, which would have been 16th if Brighton had won last night, with well over a quarter of the season gone, very nearly coming up to a third of the season gone, that sounds like a crisis. That to them as football fans, as supporters, they'll be looking at crisis. It also won't help that the enemy from down the road is top of the league at the moment. How many times have Arsenal fans of sort of our age and generations above been in the opposite position, where they've been top of the league and laughing at Tottenham in 15th, right? So that doesn't help. I've spoken about this before in terms of Tottenham and Arsenal fans' obsession with each other and the influence of the other. Now, at the moment, whatever Arsenal fans think of Tottenham's brand of football or Mourinho or whatever, they're top of the league and probably in a little bit of fear that Tottenham might be in a title challenge. And for themselves, with 11 games gone, they already know they've got no chance of winning the Premier League, whatever they did.
Yeah, so the only parallel I can draw...
like a crisis.
Yeah, I mean, the only parallel I can draw from recent times is when Chelsea had that hideous start to the season. And where did they end up finishing that year?
10th, I think.
Okay. So, and then the season after they righted themselves and back
they
up.
They won the league.
So this is where I'm like, okay, you know what? You know that this season's going to be difficult now because of the start that you've had. But I don't think that they can't turn it around and get themselves back up there. They're not going to be in the top 4. They'll struggle to get in the top 6, if I'm honest with you. But they'll be top half, and they'll get themselves in a position to kick on for next year. But
that's already, I'm telling you, in Arsenal fans' minds, that's already a crisis, because anything lower than it obviously became the kind of laughable trophy in the late noughties and the early teens. You know, constantly finishing 4th, Wenger declaring it as like winning a trophy, was already at a stage where it was becoming unacceptable for Arsenal fans. I've spoken about this many times, about the dream that Arsenal fans were sold when they went to the Emirates, was that it was going to make them one of the biggest clubs in Europe. That they are. The problem is it didn't add on the word successful clubs in Europe, because Arsenal fans thought it was going to mean, right, we're going to go and regularly win Premier League titles, regularly win Champions Leagues, etc. And when they left Highbury, you could have foreseen that happening. Definitely think of that team that they had back there with Henry, Fabregas, off the back of the previous team with Vieira, Petit, the famous back four, etc. And Arsenal have never matched it. They've only really flirted with title challenges since moving to the Emirates. So there's a lot of built-up frustration over a long period of time, which some of it's been a little bit addressed over the last couple of years because of some of the FA Cup wins. We shouldn't forget that Mikel Arteta beat Chelsea and Manchester City to win the FA Cup only in summer, right?
The thing that Arsenal fans will throw back in the Tottenham faces is trophies, right, at the end of the day. So, and you can't argue with that. I think another parallel that you can look at, though, is how United struggled after Fergie left. I mean, Wenger, the struggle started before he left. But when you have a manager that's so dominant from a force of character in a club and then has a decline or does leave, it's very hard to maintain that. I think Liverpool will see it when Klopp leaves. which inevitably one day he will, it will be difficult to replicate and have that continuation. Very rarely do you see that in clubs.
It's definitely difficult to have change after such a longevity of period. Was it 22 years Arsene Wenger was in charge, right? And I know the majority of them wanted him to go in the end because it had gone on long enough. But actually, if Arsene Wenger was still Arsenal manager, would they be in a better position? They probably would be.
Well, I'm sure you've seen. Have you seen the JPEGs that go around comparing Unai Emery's start with Arteta's start? More wins, more goals scored, less goals conceded, etc., etc. So, would they be in better position if Emery had stayed?
We'll come on to some stats, but in the first instance, do you think there's any question on Mikel Arteta's job?
There's no question on his job, no.
The rumblings beginning because certain stats, like what you said, 2 goals in 7, one of them being a penalty, assisted beautifully by Paul Pogba, I might add. That's scary. That's scary for anybody to score 2 goals in 7 games.
Yeah, I'm frustrated.
That's the main reason why they are where they are in the league.
I'd like to play them now. It's just annoying that we have to play them halfway through next year because I think we'd give them a good game right now.
I'm sure everybody feels like that. And the problem for Arsenal probably is for their own fans. They're probably looking at the next game going, right, Burnley at home, must win 3 points, get that completely. The problem is they're struggling to score goals. Burnley would defend the box. If you don't score early, it becomes a nasty experience. Then suddenly you can see the odd set piece, etc. And that's worth saying Arsenal defend set pieces very well now, by the way. But it becomes scary that suddenly could you lose 1-0 at home to Burnley, for example? I mean, should they lose at the weekend on Sunday night, then are we having a different conversation this time next week? I'm thinking, what if they lose at home to Burnley and Southampton? Does the manager's position become untenable? That's the point.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 defeats in 13 games.
They've lost 6 of the last 9 league games. That's unacceptable for Arsenal. That's unacceptable for a mid-table team, whatever the fixtures. And I'll come back onto a bit of a fixture comparison a little bit. I agree. I spoke a lot. A good reference point is I spoke about Arteta a lot after the Fulham game. You go, yeah, Fulham opening day. That's all it was. But you could see things that day in terms of the movement, the shape, almost questioning the game, going, what system are they playing? This is fascinating. That kind of, I mean, it didn't excite me because I didn't enjoy watching it. But you think, okay, he's on to something here. Particularly off the back. And the interesting thing kind of about what happened Sunday at Tottenham and the traps they fell into was you think back to the semi-final and the final victories against Chelsea City and also the league victory against Liverpool. How did they achieve them victories? By being defensive themselves, brilliant counter-attacking football. And yet they wanted to open up and try and dominate the game against Tottenham. Now, admittedly, once you go 1-0 behind, that probably influences the fact. And obviously Tottenham have scored quite early. But I think there was a feeling coming into this season, do you know what? Arsenal in big games this year could be a different beast. And so far, we haven't seen it at all.
No.
They lost limply at City. They lost limply at Tottenham on Sunday. They got well beat at Liverpool. Liverpool had a good night. That can obviously happen. They won at United, but we don't really know if we want to consider that as a big game. It's worth saying Arsenal played all these games away from home this year, but then the home form looks bad. I think it's last 3 they've lost at home in the Premier League.
Yep.
And not against, look, Leicester, Wolves, Villa, they're all decent sides. Nobody should be taking 0 points out of them 3 games at home. Right? No. And that's why the pressure's building, because as much psychologically, I think a lot of Arsenal fans be thinking, yeah, do you know what? Arteta's definitely an upgrade on Emery. The blatant results in front of your face are saying, I'm not sure this is working. And things like the body language of Aubameyang looks disinterested at the moment, and certain other players makes you think, oh, actually, do they give a shit? And then that's questionable.
I mean, Aubameyang had the whole contract dilemma and disputes and what have you, and then since has gone on and done nothing.
Literally, yeah.
It's always a concern when that happens, isn't it? It does make you question a certain player's motive. Like, he wanted to get the big contract. He was playing well up until then. We all had him in our game week 1 squads in FPL, thinking the first couple of weeks, armband. And And then, yeah, sure, we can bin him off when City are playing. No one's going near the guy with the barge pole now. He doesn't look like he's going to score at all.
I might.
I was just thinking, you were talking about Wolves, Leicester, Villa. I feel like it's 9 points. It was for us anyway. Boom, boom.
Wow, I mean, there you go. That's the point.
Is there any question marks around Aubameyang's mentality here?
Ooh, I think it's a little bit difficult to question that as one player, but the reason he gets highlighted, and I've highlighted him for a couple of weeks, that he's wearing the armband. So I think that's quite important at the moment. Sometimes you can go out and give team tactical instructions, etc. But if you have players that, listen, when you have a team of players who got players who are continually going to make basic individual mistakes over and over again, such as Bellerin, who is a good attacking fullback, but defensively makes the same mistakes over and over, and Granit Xhaka, right? There are points in a game where you have to manage your team on a football pitch. And Arsenal have a problem, which a lot of modern teams have, which is on-field leadership. Aubameyang, I feel, has become captain of Arsenal because it's become almost the centrepiece, as in he's the best player. And it was kind of off the back of what happened with Xhaka last year, off-field stuff with Mesut Ozil as well. And you do look at it and you think, okay, well, if Aubameyang wasn't captain, who would be captain? You think, well, that's tough. And I think, well, someone like Kieran Tierney would set a good example at the moment, but he's not been at the club that long, right?
I think you'd end up with maybe Leno or something crazy like that.
Well, this is an issue for Arsenal, right? And if you go back through, obviously, the 90s and noughties teams and Adams, Vieira, etc., even Fabregas is quite a young player, and obviously Thierry Henry, like, these were proper leaders of men, really, right?
Yeah.
So that's been an ongoing problem for Arsenal, which was a big accusation thrown at Wenger sort of 4 or 5 years ago and hasn't been addressed. There's no leader in that team. There's nobody to kind of inspire them and get them going. So, yes, unfortunately, fingers will get pointed at Aubameyang. We've obviously, last season, it kind of became an acceptance. Look, he will still score goals off the left. For whatever reason so far this season, that had been stopping. Then he's gone through the middle and it's been worse. And it's worse now because he's just not in the game at all.
Yep.
So whereas at least off the left, he's like, oh, right, people are shutting him down. He's finding it difficult to get him behind. Now you've got your best players not even touching the ball. It felt to me like on Sunday he didn't even play. He had obviously the one run near the end and you think, oh, he's going to shift Alderweireld inside and bend it in. And he goes on his left and takes the shot earlier than I think you'd expect. Think back to how he shifted Rudiger inside out in the cup final. I'm thinking he's running at Alderweireld. There's a big problem there. But that's the only sniff he had in the game. So, I mean, one of the things that will obviously make Arsenal better is how do you get the best out of Aubameyang? I actually think playing with Lacazette is the immediate answer, a little bit like they did at the weekend. Yep. Actually, Lacazette played some interesting passes in the game. Considering it's not his forte, as you will, in terms of, I don't know, slide rule passes as a number 10, probably the couple of best moments Arsenal did have in the game was normally him playing a forward pass. So I think, and Lacazette's a good striker of the ball from distance as well. I think having someone with him who's also capable of scoring goals would be beneficial for him.
And they are, I think psychologically, I mean, they are mates, right? In that sense, you see them
they get
having
on.
a good time together.
It's clear. So, yeah.
It does help.
It possibly will from, I don't know, just a feeling of comfort that, yeah, I get that. Your mates on the pitch, a bit like Kane and Son at the moment, right? In terms of their relationship. Yep. Yes, I can see Lacazette and Aubameyang as a partnership. One argument is perhaps in some of the games coming up, just play them both up front together. That might create some space for Aubameyang. What it feels like they've tried to do over the last couple of games since Aubameyang went through the middle is try and cross the ball more. The only chance I can really remember Aubameyang having in the games is the header against Wolves from a cross. The amount of crosses they've had in the last few games is probably the most in the league. Yeah. Arsenal crossing. Have they ever? It's not like they've got... If they had Drew in the middle, I spoke about this yesterday, you go, oh, okay, yeah. Get it to the byline, fling the thing in, he'll get across the near post. You don't actually see Aubameyang or Lacazette scoring many headed goals from crosses, do you?
No.
I think they've had... I didn't list it, but yeah, the crosses they've had absolutely loads, particularly since Aubameyang's gone back through the middle. Obviously, the detail of that doesn't tell you if it's aerial or low. It's only the low cross he's going to score from, really. He's not going to score many bullet headers against some of the centre-halves in this league.
No. Do you think there's a certain... I'm looking back at the start of the season and pre-season as well, And I feel like there was a certain amount of excitement for the youth players coming through as well.
Yeah.
In terms of you've got Nketiah up top, hardly getting a look in now. Willock and Reece Nelson and Saka. Even Saliba was out on loan last year. He's only like 19, 20 years old, thinking, you know what? He's been bought for the future. We bought him, let them have him back on loan for a season, and then he'll come in and shore up our defence. Hasn't really had a look in at all.
He's gone back to France again, isn't he?
Oh, has he gone back on loan now?
Yeah, there was a rumour that he lost one of the parents, and Arsenal thought it was better off that he spent another year in France rather than sitting on the bench quite a lot. So, but listen, people go on about Saliba a lot. Most of the people go on about Saliba have never seen him play. I haven't.
Yeah,
I don't actually know if he's any good or not.
And then you've got obviously Martinelli, gutted with the injury.
He's a real talent. Do you know what he is as well? He's busy. He's lively.
They've got Smith Rowe. All these young players that people are like, you know what? There is an excitement when you've got a crop of young players that come through together. Saka's the only one that's shown consistency.
Yeah.
Even Maitland-Niles is still young, right? And there was talk of him obviously going to Wolves. Everyone was up in arms a little bit about that. Then they've kept him, but he hasn't really then had an impact on the Arsenal side this season. He's probably been one of their better players.
One of the problems with I really like Maitland-Niles actually. One of the problems with him is he doesn't really been able to define a position. He's a midfield player where they've got plenty now. I think a lot of Arsenal fans would like him to play right back instead of Bellerin.
Yeah,
that seems to be the feeling I'm beginning.
Maybe with a 5 at the back though, so you can bomb forward a little bit more.
I mean, they've had flexibility between the 5 and the 4. I really liked what they did actually at the start of the season because it was difficult to tell game from game whether it was a back 3 or a back 4. And they kind of overloaded the left-hand side, which had benefits for Aubameyang in the first couple of games, but then didn't. And I felt it became quite obvious. And then people were sussing out, right, well, Aubameyang's not getting behind it. There's overloads down the left-hand side. We haven't spoken about Partey. Is the one player's worth a mention. Party time, they all told us in the summer. Yep, so was it for me on Sunday when he decided to walk off the pitch. Listen, if you're injured, you're injured. I've seen some Arsenal fans be heavily critical of him. I've seen some be heavily defensive. What I would say is if that was Granit Xhaka who had walked off the pitch, he would be getting butchered, mate. So what you should do in that situation, by the way? Go down, sit on the floor and hope the referee stops the game or something. Don't try and chase it if you can't. Because then no one's stopping anything, are they?
No.
But he's a very good player. Obviously, we don't know the extent of how bad the injury setback will be, but he's a good player. The partnership of Partey and El Neni at Manchester United, which is easy to forget now, was brilliant. Right? They really went and pressed and got in United's face on the day. There was long periods during that first half where United couldn't even pass the ball into Arsenal's half. It was extremely impressive. Put Ceballos and Xhaka in there, you can't do that.
No.
They just can't get in people's face in the same way. I like Ceballos. He's a tidy player, but I don't know if I've convinced myself about him now that that's exactly what he is. He's just a tidy player who keeps passing the ball. Some passing numbers for you from Arsenal, because this is quite interesting. So they've attempted 5,901 passes so far this season in 11 game weeks. It's the 4th most in the league. Final third passes is 1,386. That would put them 10th out of the 20 teams. So the first thing I read into that as a statistic is too slow with the build-up.
Yeah, they're not
taking too long.
Yeah.
You're not hurting people in the final third, and it becomes a lot of sideways stuff. We know as Sky players, right? How many passes does Gabriel have in a game?
Enough to get me tier 2 points week in, week out.
Exactly. They keep the ball at the back. And listen, there's times and a place for it. It's called working opportunity. The major difference is a lot of Arteta's schooling has obviously come from Guardiola. It's going to be quite natural, right? What does City do? They pass the ball for fun. But they also put high pressure on in the final third. City don't do it as well now as they did a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But you still feel when they get in that final third, you're in trouble. They're going to hurt you.
There's a certain speed with which they move the ball as well. It's just like 20% faster that makes all the difference, where they don't wait to think, where shall I pass it? It's just keep it moving. Arsenal are a lot slower at moving the ball than City at their peak are.
Yeah, agreed. So if I can throw some more numbers into the conversation, Suj, if I may, to kind of define, because one of the questions I think probably not being asked, do Arsenal deserve to be where they are in the league at the moment? So Goals scored, 10, ranks them 17th. Shots, 106, ranks them 16th. Shots on target, 34, ranks them 16th. Shots in the box, 70, ranks them 16th. Big chances, 16th, ranks them 15th. Big chances created, 10, ranks them 15th. XG, 12.09, ranks them 17th. Key passes, 71, ranks them 17th. Key passes, 71, despite the fact they've had the fourth most passes in the league. So on all the attacking metrics, they come between 15th and 17th for all of them. It's not just one there that's an anomaly. It's all of them. That's quite scary.
Yep.
So you're looking at that and you go, okay, they do deserve to be there. Now, here's a flip. Some of the defensive numbers. So conceded 14. That's the 5th best. Shots conceded 130 is 10th best. Shots in the box conceded 76, 7th. Shots on targets conceded 42 would have them ranked 8th. Big chances conceded 19 would have them 9th. Expected goals conceded of 14.06 would have them 6th. So from a defensive aspect, they're floating around sort of between 5th and 9th. Europa League challenging, if you will.
Yeah.
Attacking in the final third, fighting relegation. So we can now define the problem. It's all offensive.
Yeah, and it comes back to the first thing I said, it was 2 goals in 7. The thing with watching West Ham now, week in, week out, is I know we'll score 1. Sometimes we'll score 2. There hasn't been a game for a long time that we haven't scored in. I'm just thinking first day of the season, but we always nick 1 or 2. Arsenal not going to score. I mean, then it's a case of keeping a clean sheet or conceding fewer than we score. So yeah, it's an offensive problem. Definitely, you're right.
One of the things I really think they should do now in the upcoming games, and I think he's probably still suspended for the weekend game mainly, is get Mikel Arteta in the team. Now, I've not been impressed with him so far. Arsenal made a big outlay of money for him last year, well documented, 70 to 80 million, but a lot of bloody money, which so far hasn't justified it. He obviously had the red card at Leeds, let his team, fans, manager, let them all down. What he brings Arsenal, though, is unpredictability. He draws people. He is a good dribbler. You do not want him coming in left side and having a shot. And do you know what? It's small things like that might give space to others. Willian, Arsenal fans must be looking at that and going, you are joking that we gave him a 3-year contract. Adam spoke about him, Adam Pritchard at 350 before we previewed their game at Leeds, and he spoke about Arteta wanting a structural player. Basically, that's what Willian is. He's part of a structure. Nicolas Pepe has a randomness about him. He has weaknesses, no doubt. He's probably going to leave his fullback a little bit isolated. But in terms of what Arsenal do attacking, he's probably going to cause some damage. If you actually go back to the Sheffield United game in game week 2, it was his introduction that basically won that game for them against a tight defence. They're going to face something similar, albeit different system, against Burnley at the weekend. So I think, utilising a player you spent a lot of money on, he's unpredictable, he's going to have good games and bad games. I think get him in the team now. I think get Lacazette and Aubameyang close to each other. And I think lock Saka down now as left midfield. I was so overjoyed when he moved to right back on Sunday because he's a difficult player to play against.
Yeah.
No, he's hungry. He's the sort. We talk about on-field leadership. He actually leads by the way he plays. He's got a brilliant enthusiasm about the way he plays, which I think rubs off on others in a positive way. So get him in the team and trust him. I'd like to see Reece Nelson integrated in towards the first 11 a lot more because he's a talent I've followed for a long time and he has got it. He just needs it to come out. So what that means Arsenal do with the wages of Willian, etc., probably put him in the stand next to Mesut Ozil or on Instagram playing Twitch and what's the game they'll play? Fortnite. Get them playing Fortnite together. If you can get Partey in the team, I spoke about this a few weeks ago, probably after the United game, about one of the blessings of Partey for them is they can have pressure with El Neni if El Neni plays with him. They can have a sitting player in Xhaka Xhaka's got good distribution from deep, or Ceballos is the tidy one that kind of goes and runs the game for them. So we've got different options. Defensively, it's getting better. Honestly, Holding's probably not good enough. David Luiz is always going to have a nightmare. Maitland-Niles feels like the answer at right back. He won't like it, but it's probably the answer. Tierney's good. Gabriel +1 at centre-half's not too bad. And you're right, the goalkeeper's decent, mate. Although it doesn't feel like he's played well since Martinez went, oddly enough.
No. What's your views? Quite often, a lot of stick in previous seasons, more so when Emery was in charge than since Arteta's been in charge, has been aimed at Kroenke and the board and what have you. Towards the end of the Wenger era, it was obviously very heavily towards them. Haven't heard as much. I'll be honest with you, I didn't do what you did and get the popcorn out and watch AFTV on Sunday. I haven't watched AFTV for a while to see what kind of nonsense is happening there. But I don't see or hear as much being aimed or directed at the board, because they've pulled their finger out in terms of they bought some players this summer. They bought Partey. They bought Gabriel.
Who's buying the players?
I don't know. I don't know about club structure. But the owners putting their hands in their pocket. That's all you can ask them to do. It's the same for our owners as well, right? They put their hand in their pocket. Now, they're not that's all they can do. If they're not the ones choosing the players, then so be it. But I don't see as much being aimed at the Kroenkes at the moment. I personally feel like if things don't go well, more will get aimed at the Kroenkes before it get aimed at Arteta, because they're an easier target.
This is kind of deeper rooted into Arsenal fans' fears, right? In terms of power, and obviously is Kroenke and the like. Are they going to be spending the money that's going to take Arsenal to where they want to be? And I think inside they probably know the answer is no. But see, Partey's an interesting example. What did they pay? 45 million for him? Ended up paying the money to La Liga directly on deadline day, didn't they? Which was the end of September. They'd have been a lot better off probably agreeing a fee with Atletico Madrid a month earlier and paying a little bit extra. But I think it just shows in itself. That was obviously the strategy plan. We'll try and get the price down. But if we can't, then fine, we'll go to the league on the final day and say, here's your money. And you're wasting time. Players now got an injury because he's probably not had proper fitness, etc., and training and integration into the team. He went straight in, right? Mm-hmm. It was almost inevitable that it's going to catch up with him. Whoever made the decision to give Willian a 3-year contract, honestly, he's so bad. Yeah, do you know what? He's been a great player for Chelsea. If you'd have said, yeah, get him in, players will learn off him for a year, people like Pepe might benefit, great. Did anybody, when Willian signed that contract on massive money for 3 years, did anybody actually visualise, Willian will still be in this team in 2 years?
I don't know if that's
Willian's coming out of that team soon, the way it's going.
Yeah, sure. At the same time, though, when Willian did sign, a lot of people were saying that he's a really good trainer, a really good professional. He's kept his body in great shape. So from a fitness point of view, he's still as good and as fit as anybody. So there was never any issue around his age necessarily. People were saying that, you know what, ever since he's joined Chelsea, he's been one of their most consistent performers and trainers, and is good to have around the club, and no-nonsense kind of guy. So there was a lot of praise for him at that time to do with his off-field attitude and what have you. So I feel like they would have thought at the time that, you know what, 3 years, if he's in as good a shape as we've seen and as people say, 2 years and then the final year being bit part off the bench, fine. They didn't pay a transfer fee for him. I don't know what his wages are, to be honest with you, but it's not going to be cheap, but I'm sure. But then there's no transfer fee. When they're chucking around 25s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 72s in the case of Pepe, I'm not as downbeat on their transfer of Willian. But will he be out the side soon? Yeah, no doubt.
One of the fundamental problems that Arsenal have, forget off the pitch, forget management, a lot of them players that we've spoken about, quite frankly, are not good enough. The squad needs a massive overhaul. You know, things like saying, okay, Maitland-Niles at right back might be the answer in the short term. It's not a long term. Arsenal need a new right back. They bought Cedric from Southampton as he played. So that wasn't a solution. It's another wasted transfer. They'll need another centre-half for Gabriel eventually, because I don't think Rob Holding's ever going to be good enough. David Luiz is not going to be around long enough, and it's only Lavrix. Tierney's fixed the problem at left-back. You're good there now. Partey has solved one problem in midfield, but genuinely, the rest of that team could be replaced. And that includes Aubameyang, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, he is 32. He's no spring chicken.
He's signed a contract. He's now an asset that somebody might want to give money for. And it feels like Arsenal need the money to be able to reinvest in other places at the moment. So
if you get a big money deal in China or the Far East,
I don't think it would have been the worst thing for Arsenal if he'd left in the summer. And I really rate him. It's not a criticism of him. Like, he's a frightening player when he's on it. I think we all know that. But I just feel transition-wise for Arteta and for Arsenal, it might have been better if he went. And just say,
I think that was
we're gonna reset here.
It's quite possibly one of Alec Ferguson's least rated skills was knowing when
to reset.
It's the right time to move a superstar on. Because he over the years he had a number of big name players that he did let go and move on, and he always did get that timing spot on most of the time. So there is a right time to let a player go. And
that's it. After his performances in the cup semi and the cup final, Arsenal fans would have gone mental if he'd left.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I wonder how Arsenal fans would feel now if, what is he, 31 maybe, Aubameyang?
32 now.
32? I'd be interested to get feedback from Arsenal fans. How would you feel if you got a 40 million bid for Aubameyang in January and you accepted it? I'd be interested to know, because my feeling on that would be
31. I stand 31. Corrected.
Thank you.
Willian is 32. He turns 32 in June.
Okay, so he's 31. I'd be interested to know what Arsenal fans would think about that, the prospect of saying Aubameyang. At the moment, it probably feels damning because at the end of the day, he's still your best player, certainly from an attacking aspect. But I wonder where his motivation is at the moment. He's just not enjoying it, is it? And it might be that he's not enjoying the style, but it was working back in July. Mustn't forget that.
And that's probably a good place to leave the pod. What do you think, Arsenal fans? How would you feel if Aubameyang could leave
How would you feel if Arteta left?
Obviously, James and I are coming at it not from a fan's perspective, but a neutral perspective. James is not really neutral because he's a Spurs fan, so there's always that level of bias involved. Interested to know your thoughts. Whether you're on Twitter or YouTube or whatever, jump in the comments or the thread of the tweet and just chuck out your opinions on what you do think on Arsenal. Are you in crisis? What is a crisis? And where do you go from here?
I have one interesting line of a statistic before we finish.
Do it.
I looked at the results that Arsenal had in the same fixtures last season. And they've obviously played Fulham and Leeds this year. They wouldn't have played last year, so I removed them. In the exact 9 fixtures, excluding Fulham and Leeds, for the same fixtures for last season, Arsenal were only 1 point worse off than the same fixtures from last season.
Oh, so there's no crisis. Problem solved. Should have said that at the beginning of the pod, James. Would have saved us 35 minutes.
So let's see what happens next. In terms of what happened next last year, they obviously beat Burnley at home. They drew at home to Southampton, should have got beat. I think they drew at Everton last season. So if there's a bit of comfort at the moment, you could say, well, actually, in these corresponding fixtures last season, Arsenal's fixtures have been similar. Some have done better. Obviously, won at Old Trafford this year, for example. 1 point worse off for the same 9 fixtures from last season. I don't know if there's anything to read into that or not, which says that actually the Arsenal do have a good 6 or 7 or so in the fixtures. Perhaps it will change for them. I know that they can click. Definitely. They could click at the weekend, play well, and suddenly it gets forgotten. It might be losing to Tottenham because it's the big game can go one or two ways. You either sulk about it or you get fired up and you respond.
Yep.
But Arsenal have to respond because genuinely, like I said towards the start, should they lose to Burnley on Sunday, which feels unthinkable, but actually when you look at the league table, it's not unthinkable, then I think, we are verging on serious discussions about the manager. And I don't think changing the manager is the option for Arsenal because they've still got too many shit players there. No one's going to come in the door and immediately fix that. I think he needs time. And Arsenal fans, unfortunately, are going to have to be patient. It reminds me a little bit of at Tottenham at the 90s, just going, there is the possibility here for Arsenal that they're going to go through years of mediocrity. It's also possible, like this time last year, Tottenham were in a similar position, and look where Tottenham are now. So it can change.
Let's see. We'll be back at you tomorrow with Sky Fantasy Football, on Thursday with Clash of the Correspondents, and on Friday there will be a live stream before, both in the morning and before the evening deadline before Leeds West Ham. Stay safe wherever you are. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Cue music, please, man, child.